Hey guys, Jake Ryan here. I just want to talk to you a little bit about how important it is to understand your buyer when you're positioning what it is that you're selling when it comes to solar. Now, a lot of you are sales reps and you're basically just going to be selling whatever it is that your company is pushing. So if you're only selling leases or you're only selling PPAs or you're only selling financing, maybe that's the only option that you have. And obviously when that comes to you selling a specific thing, you're going to try to make the other things not seem as much as viable options. But let's say that you're a sales organization or a sales rep and you have access to be able to sell any of these things. You have access to sell financing, you have access to sell cash deals, you have access to sell PPAs or leases. It's important that you don't get in this singular mindset that one of these specific things is better than the other, because every single homeowner, every single situation is going to be different. And something that I see talked about so much, and there's such a level of misunderstanding, is that financing is no longer a good option because the dealer fees are so high. And that really couldn't be anything further from the truth. And I understand why people think that, but it's because of the lack of education of understanding the true value proposition. Now, for example, if somebody is going to purchase a system in cash, then obviously we want the lowest price possible so that they can get the quickest return on their investment. However, most people are not paying cash for a system. And from an investment perspective, that's not really the smartest way, even though dealer fee financing is extremely high. But what you need to understand is that just like with any other type of investment, people have a different investment strategy. And so understanding your homeowner and understanding what strategy works best for them is what's going to allow you to best serve your homeowner. So, for example, there are some people who, when they go invest, let's say they're investing in the market, let's say they're putting their money in the S&P 500, or maybe they have some sort of portfolio with stocks and bonds and whatever else it might be. Let's say somebody's investing in real estate. Whatever those investments are, there are some people who want to take their own cash, they want to put that cash into the investment, and then they want to get a return on that cash. Now, there are other people who would prefer to leverage debt. Maybe they're going to go borrow that money from the bank for the real estate, or maybe they're going to go and take equity out of the real estate. Maybe they're going to invest that into the market or whatever it might be. So there's different investment strategies, and people expect a different type of return based on those strategies. I feel like there's a lot of people who are selling financing, and they're selling financing with a dealer fee, but they don't feel good about it, or they feel that it's not benefiting the homeowner, or they've read some things online or in some of these groups, and they think that they're hurting people by charging these high dealer fees. Now listen, we all wish dealer fees were lower, right? We all know that it is a little ridiculous, the amount of dealer fee, but at the end of the day, there's still a value proposition, and it could, depending on your customer, be completely irrelevant regardless of what the dealer fee or what the interest rate is. So what I want you to think about is, if, for example, I want to borrow money to purchase a piece of real estate. Let's say it's a single family piece of real estate, and let's say that regardless of what the price of the home is and the interest rate, let's just say it's ridiculous. Let's say that I bought the home at fair market value, and let's say the interest rate is 15%, which is much higher than interest rates are, even though interest rates are high right now. 15% is much, much higher than most mortgages. But let's just say that I had 15%, right? Now, some people might say, well, that's absolutely ridiculous. That's a deal dead in the water. There's no way I would ever pay 15% on interest. However, if you were to do the numbers and you figured up that your real estate investment as a rental property, you figured out that you were going to cash flow, let's say $1,000 a month from that property after all expenses, after you'd figured out minimum occupancy, after you'd figured out all the details to get to your actual NOI, your net operating income, you knew that you were going to cash flow $1,000 a month off of that property. Well, what you know is that over time, real estate, the asset appreciation is going to go up over time. Even if there's ups and downs in the market over the long term, right? Real estate's going to continue to go up in value. And you understood that you're cash flowing on that property. So unless something major happens and the property is completely vacated or some sort of anomaly, then in general, you're cash flowing $1,000. That means that the renters are paying for all of the cost. The rent that they're paying every month covers the mortgage, it covers the insurance, it covers any type of cost associated with that property. So at the end of the day, if I know that I'm going to cash flow $1,000 a month, then I know that all that asset appreciation that I'm getting is free to me. I'm not putting my own money into the deal. I'm pulling the money from the bank. The renters are paying the bank for me. And so I'm just cash flowing. And now I'm making $1,000 a month off of the bank's money. This is a very common investment strategy called OPM, or using other people's money to get a return. So even though I've signed my name on a loan, I haven't put my own investment into the property. I've only received $1,000 a month off of this property. So in that event, it does not matter what interest I'm paying, because as long as I know the numbers work, the interest is irrelevant. It's the same concept when you're talking about financing with a high dealer fee. As long as the numbers still work for the homeowner, as long as the homeowner is still saving money, and even if they're not saving money day one, which in most cases in 2024, almost everybody's saving money day one. But that, you have to understand, that wasn't the case. The majority of my sales career in solar, that wasn't the case. It was usually, hey, you're spending $30, $60, $90 a month more. Well, we had to reduce it to the ridiculous. That's only $1, $2, $3 extra, per day to be able to go solar, to be able to hedge against the rising rate of utility, to be able to hedge against inflation. So there's a value proposition there regardless of whether people are saving day one or not. And that's for a different conversation, but I believe that a lot of salespeople now are spoiled because they're just used to saving people money on a monthly basis. And I think that that's a very weak way of selling, actually, because if you're just focused on saving $30 a month, you have to really think about what you're saying. So you're so excited to save somebody $30 or $50 a month, but at the end of the day, would you take out a $50,000 loan to save $30 a month? That's not the real value proposition. The monthly savings is not the real value proposition. So again, that's a conversation for another time. But what I'm trying to explain is that if you have a utility bill that's, say, $300 a month, and the solar payment financed, even with an outrageous dealer fee, is going to be $250 a month, you're saving $50 a month. So from day one, that homeowner is paying less money than they would to their utility company, correct? So that means that the utility company is paying the payment for them. That's money that would have had to go to the utility company. There's no other option. It had to go to them. Now that money is now going to the solar payment instead. So from day one, that homeowner is cash flowing $50 a month minimum from the utility company. The utility company is paying the payment. So who cares what the interest is? Who cares how much they're going to pay over time? Because the homeowner is not paying it. The homeowner is just reallocating funds that they would have paid to the utility company. So when you can see that perspective and you understand that this is not the homeowner coming out of pocket any money, this is money that they are just reallocating. Now the utility company is paying that. So who cares if the utility company pays a 38% dealer fee? Who cares if the utility company pays a 5 or a 10 or a 30% interest rate? As long as the homeowner is not coming out of pocket for that investment from this specific strategy, then it works from a cash flow perspective, okay? So, for example, I know why everybody thinks that this doesn't work. Because let's say you have a $50,000 solar loan, and let's say you have a 35% dealer fee on that, so that's $17,500 that's coming out of the deal. So technically, that's a $32,500 solar system. Now, if they were to stretch that out on 5% for 25 years, they're going to pay about $37,000 in interest. So now that $32,000 cost of the project, they paid $87,000 for. Okay? Now, if you were dealing with a homeowner that had to pull this money out of their pocket and it was never going to the utility company, and they had to pay this, and it was an investment for them, and it was their money that they were putting into it, and it wasn't being reallocated, then by all means, it wouldn't make sense to pay $87,000 for a $32,000 solar system. Understood. However, because the utility company is paying the payment for them, they're still receiving all the benefits, okay? they are not paying $32 or $50 or $87,000, right? They're paying $250 a month, which is less than what they were paying the utility company. So they're making $50 a month off of the utility company's money now. And every single year, as the rates go up, as inflation goes up, the amount of money that they're saving grows exponentially with that. So you're putting homeowners in a position where they're cash flowing from day one. Now, that's a different investment strategy than if somebody were to say, hey, I want the best cash deal because I want to wait on the return, right? And I want to put my own money into it. But again, this is something that's very, very misunderstood because most people don't understand leveraging debt as an investment strategy. So you have to understand that this is no different from other people's money in real estate or other people's money investing in whatever it is. It's simply the fact that you're taking money that would have definitely, no questions asked, went to the utility company. You're putting that money somewhere else instead, so it's not their money. It's the utility company's money. The utility company, is paying the dealer fee. The utility company's paying the interest. They're paying all that because it's money that would have went to them. Okay? Now, there are situations where a lease is going to be better, where a PPA is going to be better. These are things that you need to understand your buyer to better understand what fits them. If you have somebody who doesn't qualify to be able to receive that entire tax credit, then obviously if they're in a position where the tax benefits aren't going to help them lower their price or lower their payment, then obviously a lease or a PPA could definitely make more sense in that case. However, it's also not the same thing when you have older clients. A lot of time, maybe they have money saved up or they have investments and they want to come and pull out cash to pay for their system. And a lot of guys are actually promoting that. Whereas if you have an older person and they're putting their cash in that system, it's not going to be a great investment for them. Because even though they have the cash to do it, they could take that cash, go put it in the market, make a 10% return on the cash, and then they could leverage the utility company's money to then take it and make an extra $50 or $100 or whatever their savings is every month. You put them in a cash flow situation with the financing, then they take the cash they would have paid for the solar system with, go put it in the market and make a 10, 12, 15%, whatever return on their money. Now you're putting them in a position to be able to be in a better cash flow and a better asset appreciation situation. So it's really about understanding your client. These are conversations that you're going to have with much more sophisticated, higher level buyers, but people who understand financial literacy and people who understand investments, especially if you're dealing with accredited investors, leveraging debt is something that most of these people would much rather leverage debt regardless of the fees and interest than they would to take their own cash and put into this and then have to wait on a return. So even though the dealer fees are high, it's still, in most cases, a much better investment from an investment strategy standpoint to actually finance these deals regardless of the interest rate or regardless of the dealer fee. This is also a very similar concept to the tax credit. So the tax credit exists to help you lower your overall cost and investment into solar. So there's many customers, I'm sure you guys have heard this before, that get upset. Oh, what do you mean I have to reapply my tax credit? Like, why wouldn't I keep that money? Well, you can if you want to, but understand that it's designed to reduce the cost of your system. So if you didn't go solar, you wouldn't get that tax credit. That tax credit is a direct reflection of your tax appetite or your tax liability based on the money that you owe the IRS or the money that you put into your account with the IRS throughout paying taxes throughout the year. So if you have $100,000 in income and you're on a W-2 and you've paid in, let's say, $30,000, and let's say maybe you overpaid by a couple thousand at the end of the year and you get that in a return, you still paid, let's say, $28,000 into taxes. That tax credit is a credit back for the money that you've already paid in. So you wouldn't get that if you weren't going solar. There's no way for you to receive that tax credit if you weren't going solar. So the fact that you need to reapply it toward your system makes perfect sense because that's what it's designed for. And so I think that it's important to get out of this mindset of just trying to make the lowest overall cost or just trying to make the lowest payment or just trying to make the cheapest option. But it's really important to take the time to understand your homeowner and understand what their intention is, understand what strategy makes the most sense to them, and then be able to pitch something that is going to actually provide them with the most value. And in most cases, I believe that a financed solar deal is not necessarily a bad thing just because it has dealer fees involved. It's simply a preference on what investment strategy works best for your specific home.